All right, here we go. Day 3 for 2.3. You can see at the top, we're going to find all real zeros for polynomial functions. And you can kind of see the main objective. The main objective is either we're going to be given a 0 of f of x, or we're going to be given a combination of zeros or factors. And we want to find all the zeros, and the key is we want to get f of x. We want to factor that down to a quadratic. Okay? We want to get it down to something that's x squared. Because if we have a quadratic, we could try to factor a quadratic. If it doesn't factor, then we use good old quadratic formula. And the 4 problems that we're going to do, the first 2 you're going to see, they're going to factor when we have it down to a quadratic. But 3 and 4 on the next page, they're not going to factor. So we could possibly use quadratic formula. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, we can see we have so we're moving up. If x equals -2 is a 0, we want to find all the zeros for this function. Now, if you look, our degree is 3, and I already have 1 0, so I have to find the other 2 zeros or other 2 factors. Now, I know right away, well, first I know if x equals -2 is a 0, I know that x plus 2 is a factor, and I know that -2 is a 0. To find the others, again, the key is synthetic division. So if -2 is a 0, I'm going to use synthetic division, put -2 up top. Then I put the coefficients for f of x, 2, 1, -5, and 2. Now, since it's a 0, I know that I should get this right here. I should get a 0 for a remainder. If I don't, then I made a mistake somewhere. Okay, so let's do the process of synthetic division. I bring down the 2, multiply here, I get -4. 1 minus 4 is -3. -2 times -3 is 6. -5 plus 6 is 1. -2 times 1 is -2. And there it is. You add 2 and -2, and you do get this. You get 0. Now, this is the answer. You know, this is like you're dividing f of x by x plus 2, which is the factor. So now, this is what I know of f of x so far. I've proven that x plus 2 is a factor. And then this is a quadratic, which I'm going to put right here. This is 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. So this is the objective. I got this down to a quadratic. This is a quadratic. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is factor this. And I believe this does factor. Let's see, if I factor, it's going to be 2x. This has to be x. Since the last is a plus and this is a minus, I have to have 2 minuses. And your only factors for 1 are 1 and 1. And I believe this works. Let's see here. Our outer term is what? -2x. Inner term is -1x. Yep, that's what it factors to. So now, these are all the factors. These are the 3 linear factors for this cubic function. So therefore, I've proven that x equals -2 is a 0, which was given to us. For this 2x minus 1, well, when you set that equal to 0, it's 1/2. For x minus 1, you set that equal to 0, you get 1. So these are our 3 zeros. -2, 1/2, and 1. Okay, let's go to number 2. Okay, number 2, now this is going to take a little bit more work. Your degree for f of x is 4. So what that means is you have to do synthetic division twice to get it down to a quadratic. Well, we are given 2 factors. So we're given x minus 5 as a factor and x plus 4 as a factor. So if they're telling us, hey, they're factors of f of x, then what we can also conclude is that x equals 5 and x equals -4, they're zeros of f of x. So I'm going to use those 2 numbers, 5 and -4, for synthetic division. So let's put 5 up here. I put all the coefficients for f of x, so it's 1, -4, -15, 58, and -40. All right. So, again, this right here, I should get this. I should get 0 for my remainder. Okay, let's do it. So I bring down 1. 5 times 1 is 5. -4 plus 5 is 1. 5 times 1 is 5. I add this, I get -10. 5 times -10 is -50. I add this, and I get +8. And there it is. 5 times the 8 is 40. So there it is. It works out. I get 0 as a remainder. All right, now this right here, this is a cubic. This is 1x cubed plus 1x squared minus 10x plus 8. I want to get this down to a quadratic. So now I did 5, Now I'm going to use synthetic division for -4, but I'm going to continue it with this cubic that I ended up with for the answer. Okay, so now I'm going to continue this. So I bring down the 1. So -4 times 1 is -4. 1 minus 4 is -3. -4 times -3 is 12. -10 plus 12 is 2. -4 times 2 is -8. So there it is. 8 plus -8, I get 0. Now this is the key. That was our objective. I have this down to a quadratic now. So what I've proven that the two factors given to me, they are indeed factors because they both give me a remainder of 0. So I've proven that x minus 5 is a factor. X plus 4 is a factor. Okay, I'm going to bring this down. That quadratic is x squared minus 3x plus 2. Now, just like the last one, I want to factor that. And this does factor. This would factor to, let's see here, x minus 2, x minus 1. That's what that quadratic factors to. So let's see here. -1x is the outer term, -2x. Yep, that's what it factors to. So here are all 4 of my linear factors for f of x. So therefore, my zeros are 5, -4, x minus 2, the 0 for that is 2, x minus 1, the 0 for that is 1. So these are the 4 zeros. Okay, not too bad because we just used synthetic division to get it down to a quadratic. These two quadratics factor. Okay, let's look at the back where they don't factor. Okay, so number 3, we're going to do it the same exact way that we did 1 and 2. Okay, let's move this up a little bit. There we go. All right, we're given -2 as a 0. So if -2 is a 0, then its corresponding factor is x plus 2. Now you can see I have a cubic function, so I only have to use synthetic division once to get f of x down to a quadratic. So I'm going to put -2 in the top left-hand corner, put all the coefficients for f of x. We have 1x cubed, 2x squared, -2x, -4. Okay, I use synthetic division. I bring down this 1. -2 times 1 is -2. 2 minus 2 is 0. 0 times -2 is 0. I add -2 and 0. I get -2. -2 times -2 is 4. And there it is. It works out. I get my remainder to be 0. So what I've proven is that -2, that gave me a 0. So I've proven that indeed x plus 2 is a factor. And then this right here, this is a quadratic. This quadratic is x squared. Now there's no x because it's 0. So then I just have -2. Now at this point, the x squared minus 2, that's not difference of 2 squares. So you couldn't factor it. But I wouldn't use quadratic formula because there's no x. So if there's no x, don't use quadratic formula. I could just take this. If I set this equal to 0, right? If I do this, say, all right, x squared minus 2 has to equal 0. Well, then I have x squared equals positive 2. Take the square root of both sides, and I get x to equal plus or minus root 2. So those are my other two zeros. So I'm going to say all my zeros for this are -2, and then the other two were plus or minus root 2. All right? Okay, I'm going to stop there, and I'm not going to do number 4. Number 4, you guys are going to do on your own. So if you look at number 4, you have 2 factors, x plus 2 and x minus 3. You're going to have to use synthetic division for this, so you're going to use -2 and 3. Get this degree of 4 down to degree of 2. And then I'm going to tell you it's not going to factor. So then you're going to use quadratic formula. And also see, when you get quadratic formula, you're going to see a connection with those two zeros. So we're finding all the real zeros. They could be whole numbers, or they could be ugly zeros like this plus or minus root 2, when this last quadratic here does not factor. So do number 4, have it done in class for tomorrow. Ciao.